Hello and welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a new production by Eric Dubay. It's called How Sunsets Work on Flat Earth. Since this is a new production, I'm sure it's going to be just packed with brand new information and proofs we've never heard before. I'm really looking forward to it. Alright, let's get on with it. Here we go. Yeah, I know I kind of gave the impression that we were going to be watching this in the same theater that we used to produce movie night, but keep in mind, I don't have any pockets, so I didn't have the keys. We're actually going to be doing this on my projection screen in my basement. So, here we go. Let's see what we got.
In the flat Earth model, the sun and moon spotlights.
Oh my, the stupid has started already. Sun and moon spotlights. If the sun and the moon were actually spotlights, this is the effect we would see. Please note that the terminator, or the line between light and darkness, is not even remotely similar to what we observe in reality.
Are perpetually hovering over and parallel to the surface of the Earth.
Any proposed mechanism for this hovering? No?
From our vantage point, due to the law of perspective, the day and night luminaries appear to rise up the eastern horizon, curve peaking high overhead, and then sink below the western horizon.
Your law of perspective offers no explanation for why the angular size of the sun does not change from sunrise throughout the day to sunset. If everything else appears to shrink with distance, why do you give the sun a free pass? Further, perspective cannot account for the half-sun seen at sunrise and sunset.
They do not escape to the underside of the flat Earth, as one might imagine.
I have not imagined that, as that would depend on the existence of a flat Earth.
But rather rotate concentric clockwise circles around the circumference from tropic to tropic.
That from tropic to tropic nonsense is the flat earther way of trying to wedge the changing of seasons into their non-existent model. This ad hoc explanation, again, for which no mechanism has been provided, claims that the sun, in addition to circling overhead, with no proposed centripetal force to keep it moving in a circle, makes larger and smaller circles over this alleged flat Earth. It must be great to be able to just pull an answer out of one's ass, whether or not it fits with any other answers, or reality for that matter.
The appearance of rising, peaking, and setting is due to the common law of perspective, where tall objects appear high overhead when nearby, but at a distance gradually lower towards the vanishing point.
And yet the sun fails to diminish in angular size. We talked about this. Well, at least Eric's speaking his own mind and not just quoting some antiquated tome.
Samuel Robotham said,
Shit.
Although the sun is at all times above and parallel to the Earth's surface, he appears to ascend the firmament from morning until noon, and to descend and sink below the horizon at evening.
Heard that? Sink below the horizon? As we said before, if perspective was at the root of all this, the sun would appear to shrink to a point as it approached the vanishing point, then disappear, not sink below the horizon. And, Sorry, the sun is without gender.
This arises from a simple and everywhere visible law of perspective. A flock of birds, when passing over a flat or marshy country, always appears to descend as it recedes, and if the flock is extensive, the first bird appears lower or nearer to the horizon than the last.
And yet, purely through the law of perspective, you never see half a flock, do you? Unless there's some sort of obstruction. Oh, say the curvature of the Earth would do.
The farthest light in a row of lamps appears the lowest, although each one has the same altitude.
Okay, show me half a lamp pole in your picture.
Bearing these phenomena in mind, it will easily be seen how the sun, although always parallel to the surface of the Earth, must appear to ascend when approaching and descend after leaving the meridian or noonday position.
You forgot to add, it must change in angular size, which it does not do.
What can be more common than the observation that Standing at one end of a long row of lampposts, those nearest to us seem to be the highest, and those farthest away the lowest, whilst, as we move along towards the opposite end of the series, those which we approach seem to get higher, and those we are leaving behind appear to gradually become lower.
Do you really think that's the demonstration he should have used? It clearly shows the only way to see half of the circle is for it to move behind a physical obstruction. Once again, like the curvature of the Earth.
It is an ordinary effect of perspective for an object to appear lower and lower as the observer goes farther and farther away from it. Let anyone try the experiment of looking at a lighthouse, church spire, monument, gas lamp, or other elevated object from a distance of only a few yards, and notice the angle at which it is observed. On going farther away, the angle under which it is seen will diminish, and the object will appear lower and lower as the distance of the observer increases.
And you will never, never see half of the object unless there is an obstruction, like the horizon or the curved ground in that intentionally disingenuous picture of the man walking away. Are you stuck in a loop here, hippie boy?
Until, at a certain point, the line of sight to the object and the apparently uprising surface of the earth upon or over which it stands will converge to the angle which constitutes the vanishing point, or the horizon, beyond which it will be invisible.
I had hoped I was going to get to say something new, but apparently not. Okay, Eric, if everything else is converging, why is the angular size of the sun not diminishing?
Heliocentrist would have you believe the very opposite of what every human who has ever walked the earth has seen with their own eyes. It is obvious to any child and sovereign-minded adult that the sun, moon, stars, and planets, every light in the sky above, revolves around the motionless earth beneath our feet.
Using only one's senses as measuring instruments, I could see how one could be deceived into thinking that. But with all the verifiable evidence to the contrary, no thinking person, or pug, would think that.
It is also plain to see that the sun and moon are both approximately the same size,
because, obviously, distance need not be taken into account when gauging the size of an object,
and situated relatively close to Earth.
I'm curious what you mean by relatively close to Earth. Relative to what? Care to enlighten us as to how you determined this unstated distance?
Not 400 times divergent and millions upon millions of miles away.
Actually, we know how far away the sun is, and have for quite a while. Average is about 93 million miles. 17th century astronomer Giovanni Cassini was able to use trigonometry to calculate the distance from the Earth to the Sun with only about a 6% error.
To abandon your senses and everyday experience in favor of such unfounded science fiction fantasies is a fallacy of appeal to authority so extreme that it leaves the brainwashed believer impotent to trust his own natural instincts and forever thereafter chained to the fantastical explanations of astronomical charlatans.
It would only be an appeal to authority if there were no experiments one could easily perform to confirm the sphericity of the Earth. But there are. And as we've already stated, one's own senses, and certainly instinct, are not scientific instruments. The final few minutes of Eric's video are really just a bunch of long debunked memes. So here's a juggling clown. When you think about it, it's really not that much different from the earlier part of Eric's video. Well, that about wraps it up for now. Thanks once again for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and/or subscribe below. If there was a part of this video you didn't like, please make sure you tell me in the comments so that I could make sure to improve on future videos. Well, see you next time.